Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for watching my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be replacing some front struts on a 2006 Rx330. So these struts are a lot like any other Toyota or Lexus vehicle, Camry, let's see what else, RAV4, Highlander, they're all going to be very similar. So what we're showing you today is going to work on a lot of different vehicles. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna need all the tools to do the job. I've got a lot more tools here than I'm probably gonna need, so once this video is all done, I'll go ahead and put in the description the exact tools that I needed. But you're gonna need, roughly a set of wrenches, some sockets to get the wheels and tires off, also to get the strut bolts off. They're larger than your general wrench. Actually, I think my 22 would probably work, but it's good to have a bigger breaker bar because sometimes they're pretty tight. You're gonna need just a standard set of 3/8 sockets, extensions maybe, and ratchet rather. I have a power tool and a flashlight, just kind of make things a little easier. Wobble sockets if the areas get tight, and there might be some pins and stuff you have to pull, so a good set of pliers is good. You're also going to need your parts. Highly recommend getting factory parts. These are genuine Toyota Lexus parts. We're also going to be replacing a rear wiper arm on this vehicle. It helps a lot to set yourself up on a table like this. A lot of people have a folding table like this to just throw your tools on, get it organized, get it set up, put it in a spot that it's easy to access. You're also going to need a floor jack and jack stands. As you can see, these are pretty cheap. I got them from Walmart actually. Honestly, you don't need anything really expensive. You just need it to hold. The more money you spend on it, the probably better they are. For the most part, as long as you are using them correctly and putting everything in the right spot, you won't have any problems. But I highly recommend getting the vehicle up and put on jack stands. Don't put it on bricks or blocks or rocks or a piece of wood. At least get proper jack stands. It's not very expensive at all. You're also going to need a computer or cell phone tuned to your favorite YouTube channel, DK Maintenance and Repair. You're going to need a speaker or radio to play some tunes to keep you entertained along the way, and gloves if you so choose to protect your hands. When you're jacking up the vehicle, don't forget to set the parking brake and block the rear wheels so the vehicle stays stationary. Also, just before you get the tires off the ground, break the lug nuts loose because it'll be a lot more difficult to do so after the tires are off the ground. Okay, so now we got it up in the air, tires off the ground. On this particular model, the wiper arms and wiper cowl have to come off in order to access the top bolts on the strut. It's not a very difficult process, it's very simple. You undo the 3 bolts that hold the wipers on, remove the wiper arms, at which point this part just pretty much pulls up. It's held on by clips. There's one clip here and one on the opposing side. Just the same. You push in the center and lift the clip out, and the wiper cowl is going to come off. When removing the wiper arms, take note of their location. Also, there's clips along the front of the cowl that need to be pressed to remove the cowl. Okay, once we have the wiper cowl off, you can see the wiper arm system's all motor and everything's there. And you can see the 3 bolts that mount your strut tower, 1, 2, and 3 at the top. Leave the bolts right here in the wiper cowl so they don't get lost. And now your strut's loose from the top. Okay, now we've got the top of the strut undone. We're moving down to the bottom. It's about 4 bolts that you have to undo down here to get everything out. You're going to want to undo this 12mm here that holds on your brake lines and your ABS sensor. You're going to want to do this 17 that holds on your sway bar. And then there's 2 21mm, I believe they might be 19. I think it's 21 on one side, 19 on the other, that hold the main portion of the strut to the knuckle. When you go to do the sway bar, this joint spins. If you can't get it undone without this joint spinning, there's a slot in the end. I'll get you a better look right now. It's a slot in the very end to put an Allen wrench and undo it with a wrench. Okay, on this particular vehicle, somebody has had to do alignment adjustments, and they've replaced the top knuckle and strut bolt with an adjustable one. So the top one here is a 21 and an 18, which is not standard, and the bottom one is, I believe, a 22. Yeah. The bottom one is a 22 on either end. If your vehicle hasn't been messed with and is still original stock, you'll have both bolts will be 22 millimeters on both sides. All right, you just get your big bar, break it loose. Sometimes what'll happen is the other side will spin. You'll have to hold that side with a wrench. I got lucky, it's holding on its own. If you find the struts moving around too much for you when you're trying to undo the bolts on the bottom, you can just throw the top nuts on, finger tight just a little bit, just to help hold it still. For me, it was okay on the passenger side. On the driver's side, trying to undo these two bolts here, it was just moving around too much. During this part, I like to wear gloves because you tend to smash your fingers a little more often during this part. So after you get the bolts out, the bigger bolts that go through the lower portion of the strut and the knuckle, everything should be undone. You should have your ABS line, your brake line undone, sway bar link undone, and the strut is pretty much free in there. So now you're just going to get it free from the knuckle. Be careful about your ABS line and your brake lines to not break them, and you're just going to twist it out and down it comes. Now the easy part's over. Okay, the last tool that I didn't mention because I hadn't gone and rented it yet is a strut spring compressor. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the disclaimer in now. You can get on to any social media platform and find at least 100 memes, GIFs, whatever you want to call them, about how dangerous this tool is and how scary it is to use. Be very cautious about this tool. So I rented this tool. I went down, it was about 60 bucks from O'Reilly's. They rent it to you, and when you return it, you get all your money back. So that's a pretty cool little setup. But if you do rent the tool, be sure to look over it very carefully. If you see anything wrong with it, any damage, any pieces that don't seem to be there that should be, or anything missing, do not rent it. This tool needs to be in good working order, otherwise it is even that much more dangerous. So, that being said, we're gonna move on. Okay, so you got your strut out, you've got your strut spring compressor. This tool is designed to compress this way, or also you can use it in the opposing direction and open it up and push out. So when I got the tool, it was kind of inverted either way. One was one way, one was the other way. So you just have to turn to make sure that the hooks are designed to compress the spring, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to compress this spring and relieve the tension off of the strut. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys in a time lapse and we'll get it done. Okay, so you'll know you're compressed enough once you start to see gap in this bottom portion of the spring. It's a little difficult on the camera to see this one, but it's there. So now everything's ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and undo this nut here. You just take an impact, 19. As long as it's not too rusted, it should come right off. Sometimes when you're doing this, the strut will spin and not allow the nut to come off. A lot of your struts, let me get this one out so I can show you. No, this one doesn't even have it. A lot of struts will have an Allen spot in the end for you to put an Allen wrench in, or it'll have a hex top for you to hold with a different wrench and loosen the nut on that side so that it can come out. This one doesn't. It looks like it just kind of uses the strut mount, there is a keyway, if you will, for the strut to hold right here on the strut itself, on the shaft, to keep it from spinning. Okay, so you got the new strut out of the package. Thing to note, they are different from side to side. What you're gonna notice is you're just gonna take your old one. Oh, this one's really blown. Anyways, you're gonna take your old one and you're gonna note the brackets on either side. So you've got one for your sway bar link and then the other one for your brake lines. You're gonna wanna make sure that they match. Once you've done that, you're gonna transfer over your bump stop onto the new strut. You're gonna make sure that your bushings are all there. If any of these are ripped or torn, I suggest that you replace them, because I've seen these boots right here tear and get caught inside the seal of the shank on the strut. So the shaft on the strut rather. And what that does is it blows the strut out right then and there, and then you've got to replace it all. So if this is damaged, replace it. If these are wore out, replace them. These ones don't look too bad. They're not crumbling apart when I mess with them. They're holding up very well, so we're gonna reuse them. So then you just slide your new strut in, orient it accordingly. So you'll see on the strut, there's a spot where the end of the spring sits. You're gonna wanna make sure that you're sitting that where it should be. Also, this rubber boot has plugs that come out that go through the strut right here. So you wanna make sure that those are all in the same spot where they should be. Okay, so this particular process is the hardest part, getting the new strut inside your old coil. It takes a lot of finagling, a lot of maneuvering, a lot of adjusting with your tool, and it's just strenuous work. That's all there is to it. That's why earlier I said the easy part is over. Getting it out is the easy part. This is where it gets difficult. So you just gotta be patient and keep working at it, and you'll get it in. It comes with a new nut, so make sure to remember to use the new nut so that you don't forget that. So once you've got it to this point, the bolt's on, your strut top is on, it's all tight up there, you're gonna start loosening your compressor. While you're doing that, you need to take note and pay attention to the rubber boot that runs along the bottom of the spring. Make sure that it's positioned as it should be. The other thing you need to take note of is on these upper strut mounts, there's arrows pointing and it says out. There's a little triangle shaped arrow and it points out. You want that to be in line with your carrier knuckle assembly mounts, okay, because that needs to be facing out. The other thing to note is that the top of this spins and it has a specific spot that it needs to be in, okay? You want to make sure that when you tighten the nut that it goes all the way down, that there's no gap in there where the shaft of the strut hasn't come all the way through the nut. That means that it's not all the way tight. If it's not all the way tight, you're gonna have to start all over again, loosen it back out and try to reposition. It means you didn't get this top part aligned with the strut shaft all the way. So just a couple of those things to note. Make sure your rubber bushings are all where they should be, and the rest of it's pretty easy from here on out. You just slowly loosen the tools one side or the other and just get it all the way out until you can get the tools off, and then reinstall your strut and do the same thing for the other side.